Amitakiapi, Layampe Tuwashte. Welcome to the ICT Newscast. I'm Shirley Snavy. We start in what now is the state of Maine, where a Native-led grant program is helping connect people of the Dawn with land. Stuart Huntington has a story.
The term land back is shorthand for the growing movement to return land to Indigenous communities. But what about the next step, returning Indigenous communities to the land? In Maine, Native leaders are working to do just that.
It's been pretty exciting for us.
Frances Soktoma manages a grant fund for the Wabanaki Commission on Land and Stewardship that seeks to repair, rebuild, and sustain Wabanaki relationship, kinship, and access to land.
This funding program, it helps complete the circle of actually getting people back to the land. We're not just returning the land. We're saying, okay, let's support you and help you get out to where you need to be and do the work that's really important to you and important to our people.
The Native-led effort in 2025 gave more than $600,000 to Native-led projects throughout the state. Professor Darren Ranko says that's an important step to connect people back to the land.
We're very keen at making great strides in helping the broadest number of our community members to engage with places through practice and access that would remain an abstraction for a lot of people.
The grants are an extension of the collaborative work between the First Light Consortium of Western conservation organizations and the Wabanaki Commission, made up of members of each tribal government in the state. Projects funded included one to open a community kitchen in the Penobscot Nation.
And so this is the first foundation that we just laid out, where the cob oven.
Jasmine Thompson-Timmer says she wants people to connect with each other through food on the land.
So getting people thinking about cooking outside again, because I feel like that connection has been lost with a lot of people. We're always tend to be on our screens and doors these days, whereas these kind of spaces are getting people to leave their comforts and come out and discuss, talk with each other, what's going on in your life.
And maybe find Native values through this Native program built on Native leadership.
The way we work with foundations is we typically have to create programs that kind of fit within their funding model that doesn't necessarily align with the way that it's best for us to do work for our own communities and for our own people. And so when we started making this fund, we really wanted to do the opposite. We wanted it to be completely owned and led by Wabanaki people so that we could approach our work in ways that are more aligned with our values and our ethics as Wabanaki people.
From the Penobscot Nation in Wabanaki Territory, I'm Stuart Huntington for ICT.
Traditional ecological knowledge was in action this fall for a tribe in Wisconsin. Erica Ayesi, our shared reporter with PBS Wisconsin, is here to tell you more.
Thanks, Shirley. In environmental news, a culturally and ecologically important controlled burn happened in Superior, Wisconsin. Wisconsin Point along Lake Superior was the site of what is known as a cultural prescribed burn. The fire removed invasive species and added nutrients to the soil to nurture native plants. The restoration effort was a partnership with the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. The point was settled by the Ojibwe and site of burial grounds, but the community was forced from the land in the early 1900s and the cemetery desecrated to make way for harbor expansion. In 2022, the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa regained the burial ground site from the city. All but 0.2 acres of Wisconsin Point, that is the site of a former Ojibwe cemetery, remains owned by the city of Superior. The prescribed burn is part of a broader healing process of honoring the land and those who came before. For the Ojibwe, such burns are a sacred connection to the health of the land.
This Great Lakes area, all the plants here are fire dependent. They depend on fire to keep growing. There's a lot of states that are turning to the indigenous tribes in the use of fire to promote what their traditions were of, using fires to shape their environment, to slow down the spread of large uncontained fires. But there's something we learned traditionally was fire. The cleansing, it helped heal us, physically, mentally, spiritually.
One of the great stories of recent years is the growth of tribal bison herds on the Great Plains. The World Wildlife Fund has been active in these efforts and produced a short video out of South Dakota. We think you'll like it.
There is probably not a stronger story of resurgence in the world. When you had this amazing buffalo population of 30 to 60 million across the Great Plains that were purposely exterminated in an attempt to control indigenous peoples, and now, look where we are, it's unheard of. These are resilient, strong animals, and we need them as much as they need us. World Wildlife Fund has a variety of important goals in our work with bison restoration in the Great Plains. Obviously, from an ecosystem perspective, buffalo are essential. They are a keystone species, and we want to make sure that we approach it from a very holistic perspective, that it's not just the ecology, but we're also incorporating the spiritual components and the cultural components.
As a Lakota people, we are a matriarchal society. We naturally were because of our teachings from the bison. The matriarch is the protector, and the matriarchs are the wisdom holders. They hold the wisdom of the landscape, the knowledge of the grasses and when to move and the water. And you see that wisdom is long-standing. They have learned it from their mother and the mother before that. I think that, just as the bison healing the landscape, our matriarchal societies that are coming back will also change our ways for the better and bring back that ancient knowledge and that ancient wisdom. And so it's like the future looks really bright to me.
It was probably 10 to 12 years where I said, you know what, we're going to have buffalo out here. Just bringing them here, it was stressful for us. But standing back and looking at everything, like when it hits. Like, we have them. They have us. That's what I tell the kids. I said, they have us now. We belong to them. It's like a completion. I'm okay now because they're here. Anything could happen, but they're here, so we're okay.
The bison being out here in the prairie, I have noticed a lot of native grasslands have returned. You see a lot more wildlife around the buffalo that have not been here in a long time. And it's very powerful because you can feel the land healing as you're on it, and you can make that connection between the bison and the land. Looking up to my mom, my grandma, and my other grandmas, and seeing how much work they put into this, to me, they're my role models. Because whenever I'm feeling down, I think about how much that they've had to go through and how long they've been working at things, and it makes me remember, hey, you come from strong people and you come from a strong family. So it may take a little longer to do things, but in the end, it's not impossible because I have watched my family over the generations conquer the impossible.
Seeing the calves with their mothers, just gives me hope. Like, we came to the point where there were almost none left, and to see so many on the landscape and to see them with their family groups and to see them with their babies, it gives me hope.
Chi Escalingwat. Chi Escalingwat. I'm happy-minded. I'm happy-minded. Chi Escalingwat. Chi Escalingwat. I'm happy-minded. I'm happy-minded.
Just outside Chicago, a Menominee chef is serving up a new program with Northwestern University. Here's ICT's Amelia Schaefer with Chef Jessica Pomenikut.
I started cooking when I was 5. My love of cooking started with an easy bake oven that I got for Christmas. I think it was like in 1983. I was little. So that's what started it. And then, as soon as I could reach a stove, my mom would sit me on a chair next to her and just teach me everything that she was doing. So I've been cooking mostly my entire life.
Jessica Pomenikut is a Menominee chef based in Chicago, cooking up not only delicious Indigenous foods, but also innovative Indigenous food education programs. Her service, Kitapanan Kitchen, which means love in the Menominee language, offers catering, food demos, and private cooking classes.
And what we do is not your average catering. We offer a full service cultural immersion experience. And a lot of that is done through on-site education and food demos in addition to catering. So my dishes are all over the place. We have ingredients, because I didn't want to just focus on one area or, one particular food. I wanted a little bit of everything because there's so many beautiful foods out there. So you'll see things on my menu like from bison roast to bison brisket, from tamales. I mean, I have rabbit and carrot mole tamales, wild turkey and chipotle and cranberry tamales, bison and blueberry. I mean, that's probably a very popular dish on my menu. We have things like wild rice meatballs, traditional wild rice with berries and maple. You'll see a lot of different salads, like a roasted corn and blueberry salad. We have a couple variations of cornbread. We do a blueberry cornbread, a wildberry cornbread, a pumpkin cornbread. So it's kind of a mixture of different ingredients from different regions.
This year, Pamonacut took her business to another level when she was invited to teach a semester-long Indigenous food class at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, as part of its Global Studies program.
And honestly, I was very hesitant because, the work that I do, I don't feel like I belong in a space like that. It's a lot different to do a 1-hour cultural ed session or a cooking class with a group than to spend a whole semester teaching. So upon some soul searching, I decided to accept the position, and it's for 1 quarter. And it's been a very amazing experience for me. That's like the main part is the cooking. And then I have them journal at the end of each class and reflect upon what we learned, what we talked about. But I also gave them some prompts in case they're stuck and don't know what to write about. And they've done a couple of different essays too. Like, I wanted them to talk about their own food cultures within their families, their communities, and, their culture itself. I didn't want to go in there and just design what we're going to cook every day. I want them to have some input. Like they have a book that we're reading about food sovereignty. And then we have a cookbook, the Loretta Barrett Oden corn dance. And I don't sit there and teach them how to cook, because I didn't want to have to teach basic knife skills. I taught them, this is how we work in our community. We work as a group. We work as a family unit. We jump in where help is needed. We help one another. We work together to get the job done.
Currently, Pamonacut students are preparing for their final meal presentation, where they will feed not only their professor, but other members of the Chicago Native community.
Where I had them plan an entire Indigenous meal, get the ingredients list, give me recipes. I'll go shop for you guys. I'll bring everything in. But you are going to cook a big meal and you're going to feed me. It worked because these kids are amazing. I have 8 students and they have literally taken everything I've given them and they've run with it. And they impress me every single day. Like can't wait for Monday mornings. And I go in there and these kids, they put so much heart and attention to what they're doing in that kitchen and the discussions we're having. Like they literally enlighten my spirit.
A Canadian woman is expressing her culture through movement and story. ICT's Miles Morrisseau caught up with Santee Smith. Take a look.
Santee Smith is a dancer, but more than that, she is a storyteller.
For me, as an artist, it's about how to tell the story in movement and expression that is the language of the piece. And that the language, I mean, like the movement and the characters and how the story unfolds.
This year, Smith's dance company, Gahawi Dance Theater, celebrated its 20th anniversary and remains one of the first Indigenous dance companies in Canada.
That's one thing about the early days I can say as well, is that there wasn't really a body of work for Indigenous performance. And so for me, it was about, creating repertoire, creating the shows that were ready to go and to have lives out aside from one performance, that it would tour, it'd go around the world. And we did that, and we continue to do that. And that's always been a goal, is to be able to create work, share it with as many people as possible, which is hard in the dance industry. Sometimes people will only get to a premiere, and then that's it. The work does not exist anywhere else. So that was one of my goals for the company, is that we tour, and that we wouldn't create work just to do it one time, that it would have a life that's been consistent. We've been consistently touring since the year that we started.
Smith graduated from McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, with a degree in physical education and psychology. In 1995, she moved to Toronto and entered the Masters of Arts in Dance at the University of Toronto. She soon connected with other up-and-coming Indigenous artists, including Gary Farmer.
Gary would ask me, he says, "What are you doing? What are you working on?" And I said, "Oh, I'm studying psychology." So what are you doing? And he said, "I'm an actor." And then he knew my background from Six Nations, being a dancer. And he said, "Well, you should do something with your choreography. With your dancing, as you have all that training." I started to go more into theater. I started pursuing that. So that was my first sort of introduction to be able to create dance to stories that reflected who I was as a Haudenosaunee person. And it was really like a inspiring and almost like one of those epiphany moments where I was thinking I could create movement and dance, but I don't have to be telling sort of Euro-Western stories as I did in ballet, but I can be sharing these stories from my community.
The Gahawi Dance Theater has 2 shows planned for its upcoming season: Skena and Continuance Immersive Commemoration, in addition to presentations, talks, and classes in person and online in the United States and Canada. The group also plans to unveil a documentary that will showcase the company's last 20 years. For ICT News, I'm Miles Morisseau.
In New Mexico, one Mayan family turns what others might call trash into a valuable resource for their village in Guatemala. Daniel Herrera Carbajal has more.
It's all started with my father. That I remember, it's 1992 with the first bus that we bought on a junkyard, and it was damaged. Actually, it was like really damaged, and we purchased it like that, and then we rebuilt it, part of it here, so it can get translated from here through Mexico and Guatemala.
Since the 90s, Israel Carmona and his family have made it their mission to provide safe and reliable transportation to their home village of San Antonio, Aguascalientes, Guatemala, a majority Cachiquel Maya village with little public transportation.
The majority of our clients are Indigenous people who do require and need these services. Within the camionetas, it says Los Pioneros, which means the pioneers. And it's because we really did help connect this small village to Antigua and really help mobility, is people were able to go to Antigua and sell in the mercados, and really giving back to our village and helping them get gainfully employed.
From San Antonio, Aguascalientes to Antigua, you'll see brightly colored buses go back and forth, picking up passengers needing transport.
Guatemala is actually a place of colorful. That's what they call La Ciudad, el país de la eterna primavera. It's because of their colorful flowers and the people, the way they wear their huipils, the Mayans. It's always colorful. And that actually, it's a culture that we try to reflect it on buses the way we show in the paintings and the designs that they have. It comes from the huipils of the fancy blouse of the Indigenous Cachiquel people.
We get the old school buses that public school districts don't need anymore. And my father, being a mechanic, he would buy them at a super low price, and Averson and him would help fix them. Then do the hard trip of traveling through Mexico by land and going down to Guatemala, where there in Guatemala, we paint them.
Growing up in Guatemala, Israel says his family had to leave due to increasing violence.
He decided to move in here to get for a better life. Back in those days, the guerrillas it was very dangerous to be in Guatemala. He had 2 or 3 encounters where they were gonna take him and kill probably. So he had to move from our village.
When they moved to Santa Fe, Kendra says she saw an appreciation for Indigenous culture like she hasn't before.
A big part of being from Santa Fe, New Mexico, is we were surrounded by other Indigenous nations. Averson and I grew up going to Powwow, the Gathering of Nations, where Indigenous culture is celebrated. And it was just so wonderful to see. And that isn't necessarily the case. Indigenous communities are still very marginalized all throughout the world. So it was really transformational for me and Averson to be proud of our culture.
And that time in Santa Fe has begun to show in the artwork.
A lot of the details are based off of features within Santa Fe, New Mexico. We have little decals like the Roadrunner.
Despite the challenges, Israel and his family continue to provide this service for their home village.
It's a hard business, and we continue to do it because it serves the community and the most marginalized people.
They love the buses, yeah, and that's something that we have. It makes us more happier and satisfied that we're bringing a good transportation, a safety transportation for our community.
For ICT, Daniel Herrera Carvajal.
For generations, Native people have passed down traditions and lessons through storytelling. Today, 2 authors are writing these stories for children. Here's a story. S.D. Nelson and Tracy Hauff are Lakota storytellers. I caught up with them at the South Dakota Book Festival and asked about their motivation to write.
So much of our stories were suppressed. We could not even tell them. We couldn't practice our ceremonies. There was a time there, especially during the boarding school era, where all of this was lost and the children were afraid to talk about it. The families were afraid to talk about it. The parents were afraid to talk about it to their children. And the Lakota language was starting to be lost. And so to be able to bring back the stories by Native people and bring back the language just recently is so important for the next generations.
I just finished a new book. It's called Animals Speak the Lakota Way. It'll be out in February of 2026. I'm really excited about this book. I love animals. I painted wildlife for many years, and so this book is in English and Lakota, and all of the animals that come to mind for me, raccoon, bear, buffalo, are in this book.
I'm also writing my 5 great-great-grandmothers' story, who were all Lakota women married to the white man who came out after the Civil War. So that is a tribute to them because the Native women were very instrumental in the success of the fur trade industry. They were the ones who had the families that connected the fur traders and taught them the language, taught them the land, gave them access to the rivers, which was very important. So they were an instrumental part of that, and they have been erased from history. So now I'm starting something I've never tried before, which is a novel, historical fiction, their story and their contribution to that fur trade industry era.
And the main thing that I really want to accomplish as an author and illustrator is I want Lakota kids and kids around the world, all kids, but Native kids, Native American children, Indigenous children especially, to know that they are participants, that they are in this world and that they can carry the football. They can lace up their shoes and get in the game. They can read and learn from reading. They can become whatever it is that they want to be. There will be bumps in the road. You know, life is not easy all the time, but believe in yourself. And we elders, we're here to help you. We support you. And life is a wonderful gift given to all of us.
Self-esteem is huge with grade school, middle school, and high school students. It really is. It's what your peers think of you, what you experience in your environment kind of shapes you at a young age. And so they've never been taught their Lakota history in mainstream education. I mean, history is talked about really whitewashed in Euro-American terms. So for us to be able to write the stories from a Lakota perspective and for it to be put in the classrooms for the children to read, it's giving them a picture of themselves like, we are here. We're not history. We haven't been erased. We are still here. This is our story. And we're proud of our story. We're proud of our culture, and learning the Lakota language And the Lakota immersion schools is part of it because the Lakota language is the culture. And so bringing that back to the children is very important. They need to know that their history, their stories are not just about the poverty on the reservations. There are beautiful families on the reservation, loving, caring families. And they know that education is important. The parents know that education is important. And going back to the boarding schools, a lot of the Native people did send their children to the boarding schools willingly because they had foresight. They knew that education was the answer. And so for us to be able to write about it and give a sense of pride to the children is priceless.
The book, Wings of an Eagle, the Billy Mills story, is a great inspiration about how you can lace up your shoes, get in the game, win a gold medal, and live a life of sharing.
For ICT from Oceti-Sakowee Homelands, I'm Shirley Snavy. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.